Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the O'Colly's post-game coverage of OSU's 50-44 exhilarating win over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I'm Ryan Novozinsky, joined here as always by Sudeep, Tumma, the sports editor for the O'Colly, and we're going to be breaking this down. So let's start with the craziness that happened in what was obviously a senior day. But first, I'd say let's start with the man of the day. Let's start with Desmond Jackson, what he was able to do. Obviously, just put up outstanding numbers for what his expectations were coming into this. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard and LD Brown both did not play this game, and Desmond Jackson really showed up, didn't he?
I always said from day one, or even just this whole season, if OSU loses skill players, Tylan Wallace, Dylan Stoner, Braden Johnson, Chuba Hubbard, LD Brown, that's not the end of the world.
Sure.
The end of the world is an offensive line that's creating no holes. And honestly, I've been impressed by Desmond Jackson the entire season.
Sure.
Even his limited ability. You see the downhill ability, the strength, vision. I mean, oh my God, the strength.
Yeah.
This guy's a true power back. He's got great balance. He goes downhill and he's at you, and he's a good, very good one cut back. That's his style. He's not the same burner that Chuba and LD are. He's not gonna run, outrun everyone, but he is an excellent back. And honestly, you don't need to do that. The truth is, running backs, everyone obsesses over speed, but the truth is you need acceleration, burst, quickness, cutability. That's what a guy Desmond Jackson gives you.
Sure.
Man, this game, he was really the catalyst. He was getting their offense up. He was consistently turning out games where, obviously, he had those 20, 30-yard, chunk yard plays, which are great, but at the same time, he was keeping them on track. This is what we said in the previous show. He has to just keep getting 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, right? Keep them on schedule. Keep going in a positive way. Make the situations easier for Spencer Sanders' offense. And like I said, he was excellent. The power, the strength is just so impressive. The vision, this guy is at his best when he's going one cut back. He's really good on that inside-outside zone concepts. When you see him out there, because he is so good, like I said, he's a one cut back who's so good at just sticking his foot on the ground and going, and he finds the hole well. And once he does, he gives you that burst. Like I said, not Chuba Hubbard burst, because think about it, he got to 200-something yards? And the way Chuba Hubbard used to get to 250 yards, and no, this is not discredit Chuba Hubbard, but you would usually see an 80-yard or 2 80-yard runs next. Desmond Jackson just kept churning over and over and over again. Should have, could have, would have had a 4th touchdown. But man, what an impressive performance. And like I said earlier, this all started with the offensive line.
Exactly.
That's the truth, right? Think about, even with Desmond Jenkins, they've been struggling to not play at that same degree they were last year, right? But at the same time, great. Josh Hill is really adjusted there.
Right.
Hunter Woodard, everyone's playing. Ryan Schneider had a great game. That offensive line was pushing. They were creating holes through the pass game and the run game. And yeah, Texas Tech, the defense isn't great. And Eli Howard was out at the defensive end, the talented defensive end. But Texas Tech still has Tony Bradford. They have great linebackers. But there was not. And here's the thing: even if you're just an okay, weak Texas Tech front, OSU's O-line dominated. They played really well. That's the truth. Offensive line play is not just about talent and strength and blah, blah, blah. And obviously, it's a big part of it, but it's about cohesion, understanding, working together. That's what OSU's offensive line did so well. And you saw it even when they weren't huge. Toward the end of the fourth quarter, the holes were huge. Desmond Jackson was bursting through them. But even before that, he was finding the cutback lanes. There was enough space, more than enough space, for him to cut through and burst through and keep them on schedule, and that was so important.
Mike Gundy talked about the week of practice they just had, and he said that they had their best day of practice the other day.
Sure.
So that was really interesting to me. It probably went in because, like you said, if you go into last week, it's such a cliche, but if you take last week's offensive line and put them in this week's game, who knows if they would have had the same sort of push that they had. I think this big week of practice really helped them, or was really beneficial to them, and they had an extra motivation factor going into this game. And through that, you got some of the huge holes.
Yeah, no doubt. And like we were talking about before this video, this is not. It's going to be so easy to say, oh yeah, just throw Chuba to the side and put Desmond Jackson there. You can't do that.
No.
If Chuba Hubbard had this offensive line and the way they were blocking today, he would have probably 300 yards like that.
Oh yeah.
He is still uber talented, but he's had bad O-line play all season long. He's been injured in a lot of games. And now you see what happens for, explosive offense. An offense that should have been explosive.
Yeah.
You think about the narrative coming into this year. The reason there were 2011 expectations were because Tylan and Chuba were coming back. You had all these pieces. Obviously, the defense was expected to take a step forward, but it was all rooted from Spencer Sanders and this offense taking a step forward. it's just been bad. It's been not just bad luck, but I mean, it has been bad luck with injuries, retirement, transfers, etc., etc. But with the offensive line, the way they played today, it was awesome to see for sure. And it really looked pure. Despite all the craziness and the sloppiness of the game, it looked pure on offense for sure.
Totally, and it looked like a revolving door all season long with that offensive line how they were playing, but today was sort of a good momentum forward for this OSU team. What did you think of Spencer Sanders and what he was able to do with some of these wide receivers today, specifically Tylan Wallace, who had a huge day on senior day?
Man, I was so impressed. Not just the way Spencer played, but the game plan.
Totally.
You saw it from the very beginning. It was a lot of their screen passes, short slants, hitches, curl routes. It was really get the ball out of his hands really quick.
Right.
And then what that did was kind of open up those opportunities down the field where you could go one-on-one with Tylan Wallace. And I mean, I keep saying it each and every week. Tylan Wallace, I mean, he's not James Washington, right? He's not just going to run by you. Even when he's covered, he's not covered. And I'd rather take Tylan Wallace than James Washington sometimes. Just because, I mean, when you're going against really good corners, and some of these Big 12 corners are really good. DeMarcus Fields is excellent. But he's just going down, and there's just no way to defend him, right? I mean, you're in perfect position. DeMarcus Fields was in great position more plays than not, but Tylan Wallace just goes up there and gets the ball. And I mean, like Tylan Wallace said, the O-line was great, which gave Spencer Sanders time. Spencer Sanders threw it in the one place Tylan Wallace can get it. And a 50-50 ball becomes a 90-10 ball.
Yeah.
It just goes up, and you're confident that, okay, yeah, he's going to come down with it, no question. And, I mean, that was big. I mean, I said at halftime, Spencer Sanders already threw 24 passes. And I think they had 53 plays to Texas Tech's 33 at half. They were running more plays. It was efficient, and it was a short pass game. And that's why at halftime, I was glad they didn't try to push the ball down when they were up. What was it, 3-7 points? Yeah. Because, I'm sure every OSU fan wanted them to go for it, wanted them to push the ball down. But say you got a turnover, and then say you got the time, the clock would stop, you punted it away. Then you would have been complaining about how they lost the ball, right? I mean, it was smart because that's what was working. That's what kept them on schedule. The run game, the short pass game, those sort of things. And this just slipped my mind till now. I mean, what OSU also did so well with their O-line, in addition to just the O-line playing well, the tight ends. You saw a lot more 12 personnel, and only 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and a running back. Because Logan Carter, Jelani Woods, man, Logan Carter is an elite blocker, definitely one of the best blockers in college football at the tight end position. Just did a great job there, and it helped. The overall game plan worked really well. I was so impressed by Spencer because it was the plays he didn't make, right? Minus the one interception. Yeah. Obviously, that was horrendous. There's no excuse for it. That was one of those things of, he just keeps trying to make that play. And it's always that conundrum of how do you find that balance between a gamer, a competitive guy who wants to make every play, and a guy who's just, between that and the recklessness of throwing picks and turning the ball over, right? And, I mean, you look at it, there's one bad pass, and that was the interception, ironically, right? Had it been incomplete, it wouldn't have been as big a deal, but that's the one problem. But besides that, like I said, the short pass game, finding guys, accuracy, and when the guys weren't open and when they were trying to get something long developing, Spencer could use his legs if guys weren't open, get it a little open, get outside the pocket, find guys on the field, or just run for the first down. And they used it well. There were some packages with some design runs. And with the O-line pulling and the way they were getting open, you saw the things just wide open. And it just changed the whole complexion because you got the run game. Then you got Spencer running. Then that just changes how pass rushers can be. That changes the way Texas Tech has to play defense. Because all of a sudden, you have to account for this and that and Tylan Wallace and this, right? Everything. Then suddenly it just opens up the whole field. And Spencer. And what I really like too, we talked about this after Kansas State, throwing the ball away, right? Making the plays of not forcing the ball down the field, just get rid of the ball, make the smart play, go down when you need to. It was great. That's what I love seeing, and I think he was a huge catalyst. What have we been talking about for weeks and weeks? Iowa State, Texas. Hey, don't turn the ball over and you're golden. This time he didn't, and nobody's even thought about that until now, right? I mean, I thought that was so key, and that was definitely a big part of this game.
Totally, and when you have Spencer Sanders on his A game, right, making these smart decisions and throwing it up to Tylan Wallace, you said it in there. You said it turns from a 50-50 ball to a 90-10 ball. I think it's almost a disgrace to call anything a 50-50 ball when it comes to Tylan Wallace. So that's just how dominant he's been on the season. That's how great he is in some of those deep situations where there's multiple people on him. Now, before we salivate over Trey Sterling and the defense, let's talk about some of these weird plays too. Let's talk about some of the stuff that happened on the special teams and maybe what you think, because I've tried to, and I've been thinking about this for probably about like an hour or two now. What the heck was Texas Tech doing on that one onside kick that they were trying to do? Just trying to steal momentum away? Was that Matt Wells trying to take it back?
Yeah, I get it. It's like when you're the underdog, when you're a team like that, after you score, you actually have a little bit of momentum, right? you have a little momentum, you have that kind of thing on your side. Mm-hmm. So you get the ball and you're down only 3 and you try to catch them, not paying attention. And it works a lot of times. You see that with teams, especially teams that are underdogs. Mm-hmm. So it's like I would say, hindsight is 20/20, right? After that, it's like, oh, what a boneheaded decision. But I mean, that's part of it. I get it. It's a risk-reward thing. And when you're the underdog, when you're not able to push so hard, when your defense is giving up a lot, I understand. But the downside, like I said, risk-reward, the downside is you lose momentum and it goes to Oklahoma State,
right?
Which is exactly what happened. And because before that, I mean, Texas Tech's offense was keeping up pace, right? Mm-hmm. They kept going and going. But after that, it really swung. OSU got there. But, I mean, that's it looked bizarre. But, that again, risk-reward. You get it, you get momentum on your side. You start pushing the ball. You change the complexion of this game. You don't get it, you're down 10. OSU's got momentum. It's a whole different ball game because you can't run at the same rate because you're down 10. It's a whole different thing. And it's one of those things sometimes you have to do as an underdog. So I understand, but again, it's a tough thing.
And even after that, Texas Tech was able to come back a little bit and force us to, a 6-point game as opposed to, a 21-point game or anything like that. But now going to this defense, and my goodness, someone we need to put the spotlight on this game is Trey Sterling. This is the guy who was making tackles for losses. He was making sacks. He was making interceptions, game-changing interceptions, and returning it for huge games. What did you see from him? And do you think he'll be the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week?
I think it was a pretty good bet. No, I mean, coming into 2019, he was obviously no one really, right? In terms of production at Oklahoma State.
Sure.
But he had an excellent season, especially as a tackler, and he was so versatile. And now he's just taken all those traits and made himself even better, right? Mm-hmm. He's taken himself from really good to elite. I mean, he's going to the NFL, no question. Yeah. He understands film so well. Everyone was obsessing over how he called his own play on the interception where he said, if the quarterback calls that again and the team picked up, okay, it's going to be a slant. He just went straight in. That's what smart safeties do. They are intelligent. That's what it really takes to be a smart defensive. That's what it takes to be an elite defensive player. Yeah, that's something where no matter how much athleticism or how much talent or all these or that or strength or whatever, all these traits, IQ, defensive IQ, smarts are so important. Film study is so important. It's understanding. I mean, Alan Bowman, what did Texas Tech do all game? The short pass game, besides the run game and all those plays, which we'll get to in a second. The slants, they threw. I mean, in the first half, like a half or 3/4 of their plays were just short slants, crossing routes, those sort of things. And it's like the understanding of, okay, they keep doing this, and I'm noticing what the quarterback's doing. That's how you make a game-winning play. You only need one interception from Spencer Sanders to think it's a bad game. You only need one interception from Trey Sterling to think it's a good game. And I mean, that was an impressive play. He is definitely one of the best. Like I was saying this season, I think he's having a better season than Kobe Harville-Peel. And that's no discredit to Kobe Harville-Peel, who's obviously an elite safety in his own right. But that's just how good Trey Sterling's been. He's been excellent as a tackler. I think he's taken up a notch as a tackler. Where before he was a tackler, you used a surefire tackler, but now they're violent. It's like him and Malcolm Rodriguez, violent tacklers almost, where they bring them down in their tracks, stop them. And it's like you don't even get to them and bring them down 2 yards later. You bring them down right then and there. Right. It's so impressive to see. In coverage, he's sticking with his guys. The only times I've really seen him, lose guys in coverage was when he's hurt, right? That Texas game where he gave the not game winner, but the fourth quarter, Jake Smith, when Texas 4th and 7, he was hurt in that play. After that, they pulled him. But he's got so much heart. He plays when competitive, right? Competitiveness. He plays when he's hurt or he's missing some games. We hear about how after the game he didn't practice much or he played through an injury, and it's always the story with him. But he's just so intelligent, and he's such. Jim Knowles talked about how Trey Sterling will just stand next to him during practice and watch the twos play, and will just comment on it and talk about this and that. I mean, it's so impressive to watch. This guy he's athletic. He's got all the tools. Versatile. What an excellent player for Jim Knowles' scheme.
Yeah, and let's talk about Jim Knowles' scheme real quick because, I mean, you had coming into this, you knew some of the weapons. You knew Alan Bowman was a solid quarterback. You knew Sir Roderick Thompson was going to, run all over the field, and he did to an extent against OSU and really picked up on some of the, missed assignments there en route to some of the touchdowns that he was able to get during this. But how did you think OSU's defensive attack was against what Texas Tech was able to do on offense? Because they have some solid receivers here and there.
Sure, yeah. I mean, my perception definitely changed when I found out. I mean, I had a feeling that something wasn't right. But when we found out that, obviously, I didn't realize Rodarius was out. I don't think he did.
Exactly. No.
It was Christian Holmes played a lot down the stretch. I noticed that much. I don't know what happened to Rodarius. I guess it's hard when the camera's not always on.
Sure.
Right? He's more on the front seven than it is on the cornerback. Sure. I don't realize. But yeah, he was out. Then you had Christian Holmes and Jarek Brown Converse. who were apparently both hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw it at times where Jared Bernard-Converse, just a foot speed, he was getting beat down the field. Christian Holmes, even that last touchdown, I don't think it was bad coverage. He was there, stride for stride.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have some talented receivers. Number 13 for Texas Tech is a talented receiver, very talented one. I think he leads the Big 12 in receptions. Like, he's a talented guy. They got some guys, and it's tough, and especially in a game like this where the run game's clicking as it is, suddenly the pass game opens up. It changes the whole complexion. But so I think that's where it started, the pass game. But in the run game, it was difficult because especially early on, I'd say the first 3 quarters, especially 2 quarters, it was a thing of, I don't think it was necessarily bad run defense. It was, you look at the scenarios, 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, whatever it was, right? Those short, tight things where you're stacking up the box because, like I just talked about with Trey Sterling, you want to stop them in their tracks, right? Because if it's 3rd and 1 and you stop them for 2 yards normally, you're thinking, oh yeah, 2-yard gain, great. But at 4th and 1, you 2 yards, you might as well give them 10 yards, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. So you got to load up the box and see where they're going. And when you watch it, all 10, 11 guys are right into there, right? They're right at that point of attack where the runner's running. But then all of a sudden, number 4, Zarius Thompson, just will be there, and then he'll realize, okay, I can't get anywhere, break out and go. And then once you're there, there's no one there. But there also can't be anyone there.
Right.
That's a difficult thing, right? That's the catch-22, where you put someone there, you're risking someone. Because here's the thing, the likeliness of someone bouncing out the way that it was done several times is so unlikely, and so it's impossible to predict. It really is like 1 in 1,000 where you see that, especially on 4th and 1. What do you teach running backs in short yardage situation? You teach them to go forward, put your head down, dive, and just get that 1 yard. So for a guy to go, be stuffed, and then suddenly turn the other way, you don't see that, and that's the difficult thing. So, I mean, and then the problem is everyone's going to see the 50 yards, the 70-yard run, but that's where it stems from. Those things, and then boom out, and that's the difficult
little things here and there, right? I believe it was Cody Waltershed that was right there, and sort of, bit it a little too much there on his read there in his gap, and then there you go, Sir Roderick Thompson goes and in for a 70-yard touchdown. But that is what OSU had to do today. This defense tried to scheme around, and this defense did a darn good job in sealing this victory, 50-44 for the OSU Cowboys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to our coverage. We will be back next week against TCU. Thank you.